What's up, boys?
Shining face. Sorry to keep you waiting, brother. How we doing?
I'm doing well. That's how you end a Ray Longo minute right there. You get the Ray Longo on the toilet screaming. That's how you end the fucking segment right there. I love it.
Dude, how about your guy Chris Curtis putting my broadcast partner Dominic Cruz on blast?
Ooh, well, I almost texted you, Johnny. After Chris fights, I always let him breathe a little bit, right? I don't hammer him right away. So on Monday, I texted him, and he's like, bro, I've been waiting for you to text me. How about fucking Dominic Cruz? He's going off on Cruz. He's like, usually it's DC. He's like, there's video of me yelling at Cruz. And we had a good text exchange about old DC Dominic Cruz there.
I would have to watch it back to provide any sort of context. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I think maybe, part of the issue was these fans in that arena were largely spoiled all night. And for whatever reason, they did not respond favorably to that fight. And so perhaps that became part of the narrative. But you know me and you know how close I am with Tom. And dude, just sat in my room watching film all weekend. Like there's certainly no malice there. And I do believe that Eric Nixick and Dominic Cruz are going to connect on that. But I guess that's neither here nor there. How are you doing, man, with this week off? Sort of a slow January before we now hit it for 11 straight weeks.
Tell you what, I'm going to confess this. I was so bored on Saturday. I know there was bare knuckle. I know there was LFA. I watched the fucking Royal Rumble. I grew up as a wrestling fan as a kid. I haven't watched wrestling in 20 plus years. I knew the Royal Rumble was like a big deal. And I dozed off a few times. And I support everyone that watches the show. I know there's a few followers that watch this that are wrestling. It's not for me. It's not for me. If it's for you, that's great. It's just not for me. I power through and this is not my cup of tea. So I am so fucking excited that the fights are back and we have a run. So I think after UFC 300, I think every weekend we got a show. So I'm a very happy man.
All right, my brother. Well, we're excited to get into some predictions today. I'll update the standings here in a moment, but we do have a pronunciation of the week, one of my favorite segments on the show. And nothing made me happier, by the way. I was at Publix grocery store here in South Florida, and there's this plantain chip company. I think it's called Chief-Lay's. And they have the phonetics written on the fucking bag, Ken Flo. You know why?
Nice.
Because people are going to keep buying your plantain chips. They probably need to know how to pronounce the brand. Oh, what's that? Chief-Lay's. Yeah. So I like seeing those phonetics.
Nice.
All right. So Roman Dolidze is fighting in the main event, Brian. I feel like this name gets butchered a little bit. So who is Roman fighting in the headliner this weekend?
So I've done a lot of tape study on this guy, not only for this, but he fought Chris his last time out. So I'm probably still going to get the fucking name wrong. That's how my brain works. Nasruddin Imavov is what I'm going with.
All right, Cody, let's trigger that audio, sir.
Nasruddin the Sniper Imavov. Encore? Nasruddin the Sniper Imavov.
Yeah, Kenny Circle gets the square for me. That's a hit for BP. You agree?
I'm on board.
Oh.
Yeah, Brian nailed it.
Oh.
Kenny is always the last line of Argus Integrated Defense. Check out A&R Tactics. A&R Tactics. My wife's like, are you on Argus Integrated Defense Instagram page again? I was like, yeah. Well, there were like 30 videos that I didn't see before I started following this company. And I'm the day. I got all these new haters now. All right, great job, Brian. Yeah, I do hear Imavov more than Imavov. So it's really just about emphasizing that second syllable, Imavov, and not Imavov. All right, main event challenge presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code AFPOD because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. All right, I'm going to update the standings now. I don't know if you guys know exactly where you stand. Brian Petrie was at plus. Yeah, you got to check my numbers here, Brian, okay?
Yeah,
so you were plus $374.75 heading into UFC 297, minus 500 on Brad Katone in a fight that could have gone either way, minus 200 on Sean Strickland in a fight that could have gone either way, but plus $270 for your $100 bet on Neil Magny, and then plus $111.11 on your $200 straight bet on Movsar Evloev. So minus 318.89 for the week, but I still have your year-to-date total in the black at $55.86. Where am I wrong?
That's it. You got it, bud. That's what I got. Numbers check out.
I doubt that Ken Flo did this math. Maybe he did. Kenny, you were at plus $237.18. Minus 200 on Brad Katona and minus 100 on Arnold Allen. The losers you guys trotted out there could have been winning tickets. You had minus 400 on Maida Bueno Silva, but you did have a big $300 straight on Dracus du Plessis, and that was at plus 114. So you won $342 on that fight. Weekly total minus $358. You are down $120.82 on the year. Now we will get to the picks for UFC Fight Night. Dolidze versus Imavov. Friendly reminder, at the end of this exercise, you guys will have $1,000 to make in bets on the fight card this weekend. Kenny, any further questions, Your Honor?
I was going to ask, do we have to spend all 1,000? Is that the deal?
You do not, right? Bri, what's the verdict there?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, listen, I'm going to spend $1,000 because I got it. But I have no problem with holding. To Kenny's point, I think what he's saying is this is a tough card. I'm not going to lie. This is a tough card.
Yeah.
So I never leave money in my account, right? Like when you have a bookie, you have like a max limit, and that's when it's really dangerous, right? But when you're betting on an application, as I am down here in South Florida, Hard Rock Bet, I make a deposit, and then once I place the bets, that money is gone. So it works a little bit differently. My account's always fucking empty. I can't wait till DraftKings Sportsbook is live here in South Florida. I'm gonna lose so much money. All right. Featured prelim at strawweight. So Molly McCann minus 270 here against Diana Belbitsa, who comes back plus 220. Brian Meatball McCann dropping down 10 pounds, making her strawweight debut, and does so as a fairly big favorite here against Belbitsa. Belbitsa repping House of Champions, Stony Creek, Ontario. Last fight for her unanimous decision loss to Karolina Kovalkiewicz last October. Brian Petrie, anything for us on the featured prelim, sir?
I like the weight change for Molly. She wasn't very, very big. I typically don't like the weight cuts, especially when you get older, but I like this move. Kind of spice it up because, listen, they gave her the buzzsaw in Blanchfield and she got mowed over. She got destroyed. And then they gave her kind of a layup with Storilenko, who is very inconsistent, but has one move in the armbar, and she got caught in the fucking armbar. So this is like reset mode. Let's go. This is a winnable fight for her against Diana Belbitsa, who's very, very active, throws a lot of hands, starting to mix in takedowns, which is Molly's kryptonite, I'd say. I think Molly's working on that. She comes from a jiu-jitsu gym, so hopefully she can tighten some of that up, but she wants to stay on the feet. She wants to land a spinning back elbow. She wants to do all those things. I think the number's wide. I think, if I'm playing hard-earned money, I go Belbitsa here. But since we're picking and I'm not going to lay money on this fight, I'm going to go Molly McCann. I love a good meatball. I love Molly McCann. I think she's going to have the harder shots while Belbitsa is going to have the more volume. And we'll see how it ends up in the judges. I think it's going to the scorecard, so over 2.5 is a good play as well. But give me meatball. I like meatball.
I like that extra play there on the prop. Kenny, was it the wedding singer when the meatball gets put in Adam Sandler's hand and he's like, that's a good meatball?
That's a good meatball.
That's no paid. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So, Kenny, real quick, I just want to set up Molly McCann. 0-2 since signing with Barstool Sports. The submission loss, one of which was referenced against Erin Blanchfield. Also, Yulia Stoliarenko. And that was really following for Molly what was like a star turning 18 months in 2021 and 2022. So a lot of pressure on McCann, big number next to her name. How do you think she fares here against Belbitsa?
I think she should be okay. Belbitsa isn't a huge threat when it comes to the submission game. She might be a little bit better on the ground than McCann. McCann certainly is vulnerable there. Needs to improve, but you got to imagine she's been working hard on it since her last fight. I think her takedown defense should hold up here. Belbitsa, it isn't so big for the weight class. She doesn't have that knockout power either. So I think McCann should be the more powerful fighter here. I think she's going to bring a little bit too much pressure. Belbitsa's very tough, but I think this is McCann's fight to lose. I like McCann here.
All right, next up at welterweight as we kick off the main card, Gilbert Urbina minus 218 taking on Charles Radke plus 180. Radke, as some of you know, the teammate of Bilal Muhammad, VFS Academy under Mike Valley there in Bensonville, Illinois. Bilal is going to be in Radke's corner this weekend, but he's the underdog here, Bri, against Gilbert Urbina, whom I've never seen fight live, but comes from a fighting family, got his first UFC win by stopping Orion Kosi due to strikes at a fight night last May. BP, what do you think here? Radke with some plus money next to his name or what?
Do you guys smell that? I smell a fucking rat line. What is this line? What are we doing here? Chuck Buffalo at plus 185. I mean, we're crazy. Gilbert Urbina comes from a fight family. Yes, his win in the UFC against Orion Cosce, whose only win in the UFC is Blood Diamond, who Charles Radke beat. So what is the Vegas thinking here? Urbina, 6'3", tall, lanky guy, but inexperienced, doesn't like getting in the mud, likes to fight pretty, likes to fight long. Chuck Buffalo is going to get in those trenches. He's going to get in the mud. He's going to take him down. He's going to let him back up. He's going to beat him up. This could be a close fight, I think. I think Urbina is going to try to stay pretty, but I think Chuck Buffalo's not going to let him. And at plus 185, I mean, come on, we're riding with Chuck Buffalo. Charles Radke, I think he's training the better guys. Not to mention his 3 losses: Austin Hubbard, Ultimate Fighter finalist; Chris Gonzalez, having a pretty decent career over in Bellator; Justin Montalvo, Ray Longo's guy, who's 5-2 overall. Yeah. I mean, the guy's fought some really good people, has won against some really good people as well. I'm all over Chuck Buffalo here.
And Chuck Buffalo, that nickname is in my notes, but I didn't want to steal Petrie's thunder. I think we agree that it is probably the best nickname in MMA. I can't think of a better one. Ken Flo, Chuck Buffalo taking on Urbina here. Who do you like?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think that there's certainly some great value on Radke here. I think he's the more technical fighter overall. Just looks smooth, but Urbina does have a way of winning and making it look ugly. I think where Radke needs to be sharpest is he needs to have an answer towards that forward pressure of Urbina. He's got to stop the takedowns. He's got to be able to not let him smother him, all that stuff. So he's going to have a very disciplined approach. And, Brian was talking about one of those losses that he faced in Justin Montalvo. And that was a fight where he was winning the whole fight, and then kind of threw it away, got hurt with a body shot, and then just crumbled. So hopefully that's not the case. I'm a little bit worried for Radke, maybe late in that fight. He's got to stay disciplined, got to be in shape for this one against Urbina. But I do think he's probably the more skillful fighter. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win. I'm going to stay away from that one from a betting standpoint. But I think there's some great value on Radke there.
How about these guys doing regional film study a full week out? And I will say, even though for you guys it is unfair that you have to make these picks on Monday, it is of tremendous value to people out there trying to get the best possible number. And it may not be that the best possible number exists early in the week, but I think you can do worse than getting picks from these guys so early in the week, because a lot of the handicappers don't go on the record until later in the week. Our big friend, Big Ron, right? Waiting all week to get that Anik and Florian podcast parlay out there. All right. At middleweight, he's going to fucking kill me for that. Aliaskhab Khizriev, the forgotten man, minus 185, taking on Mahmoud Muradov, plus 154. So Khizriev, 14-0, American top team here in South Florida, also reps Eagles MMA, submitted Dennis Tululin in his UFC debut. That was all the way back in March of 2022. Hasn't fought in 2 years since, Bri. What do we make of Khizriev getting back on the horse this weekend?
So Khizriev is a guy that surprises me. He's 5'9", a little pudgy, probably should be at 170. Rocks at 185, right. Beasting people, doesn't matter. He's got that mountain man strength, right? And Murdoch's the guy who I was high on. He was the Floyd Mayweather sign guy. He had sharp hands, comes in there, lays a dud, and then he became a wrestler against Brian Barberina, who he outsized tremendously, laying at 13 takedowns in that fight, and just kind of drowned out Barberina. This is an interesting fight here. Khizriev's a guy who I think is undersized. I don't know how much success he's going to have at 85, but I like him in this spot here. I think he's tricky. I think he's a guy who kind of sleepwalks through a fight, and then the minute he sees an opportunity, he jumps on it. He's not jumping off the map to me. He's not blowing me out of the water, but he wins, and he's very precise, and he's very technical at what he does. He'll get your back. He'll take you home. That's it. That's a wrap. I like Khizriev here, and if we're playing props, and the props are not right there, I like Khizriev, maybe possibly by submission as well. But yeah, give me the Russian.
Nicely done, Bri. I really like this fight, Kenny. Khizriev, really an intriguing guy for the UFC. He was forced to withdraw from a matchup with Jacob Malkoun last September. And then Muradov, obviously, with the Floyd Mayweather money team connections, reps Uzbekistan, born in Tajikistan. What are your thoughts on this one? Not a bad price on either side if you like one side.
Yeah, definitely. I think Khizriev's the real deal. A lot of people have compared him to Khabib, like so many people who fight out of Dagestan. A lot of people make that comparison. And, I think this is a pretty fair one. I think he has a similar style. I think he might be even a little bit more of a dangerous striker. Now, Brian nailed it with the assessment as far as his weight class and what weight he should be. I think he'd probably fare a little bit better at 170 pounds, perhaps. But still, his speed, his ability to take you down and control you is still going to be a handful for anyone at 185 pounds. I'm curious to see how Muradov's wrestling holds up against Hizriev here, but I think it's going to be a little bit too much for him to handle. I think just the pressure, the volume, and it tends to build over the course of the fight. And like Brian kind of alluded to, when he sees that you're hurt or vulnerable, that's when he really pours it on and tries to get you out of there. And I think that will be the case here for Hizriev.
All right, next up, Team Bohach's Natalia Silva, minus 340, taking on Serato MMA's Viviane Araujo, who is plus 270. A little setup for you gentlemen. Natalia Silva has got a lot of momentum right now. Flyweight 4-0 in the UFC, beat Andrea Lee. That was UFC 292 last August in Boston. A lot of experience, just 27 years old, 16-5-1. But how about this on Araujo? She's 37. I don't know if she's in her fighting prime or not, but she's fought 6 former UFC title challengers or champions. So advantage strength of schedule to the older woman here, Araujo. She fought Alexa Grasso, Caitlin Chukagian, also coming off a pretty impressive win over one of those former title challengers, Jennifer Maia, and that was last October. She's 6-4 in the UFC. VP, you like Silva the favorite or Araujo the underdog here?
This one's for the boys. I feel like I haven't delivered a good one in 2024 yet, but we're going to go this isn't my pick, but Viviane Araujo, that's my I nailed that. Kenny, don't laugh. You know I fucking nailed it again. Viviane Araujo.
Wait a second. So I laughed and I messed it up, so I'm gonna need you to
clean it.
Say it again.
All right, because guys, when I do her name on my podcast, they was laughing at me. It's Viviane Araujo. That's it. Kenny, don't laugh. It's clean. That's clean. No, listen.
I turned my mic off so that I wouldn't steal your thunder, as you were, Brian.
Yes. No, so I think she has an identity crisis. She's fought the elite of the elite, and she's came up short in some of those things. And now she's starting to mix in wrestling, and she was a power puncher coming when she first debuted in the UFC. Now she's kind of like doubting her power, and she's trying to mix everything in, which is good, but sometimes it leads to a little bit of a lackluster fight, and she's not really putting her name out there anymore. And then you got Silva, who I think is an absolute fucking stud. I mean, her losses all happened early in her career, and she's just going out there and winning and winning. The Andrea Lee fight, I know Andrea Lee, she's been flirting with the top for a while, but no one really just just shuts her out. It's usually a split decision. She walked through Andrea Lee, and Andrea Lee's tough. She mixes in takedowns well, and Silva shut all that down. Before that, she's winning by knockout. I like Silva here. I'm willing to pay the price as well. I'm minus 340. That doesn't run me away. But I like Silva big here. I don't think she can get a finish because Araujo is tough, and she's been in there with everyone. But I like Silva to really style on here and make a stamp and go, I'm here. Another Brazilian top contender in this division. So, give me Silva for sure.
Kenflo, I know Cody's bemoaning the fact that I didn't do Viviane Araujo as our pronunciation of the week, and the reason being, of course, that we have done that before. But what do you have for us on the ladies, Kenflo?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think Araujo is very tough. But I think Silva is the kind of striker that when she gets in her rhythm, that momentum just tends to build, and she just gets better and better. A lot of that has to do with her footwork, her rhythm. She throws some of the nastiest shovel hooks out of any fighter in the UFC, male or female. She gets into that striking lane, and she will destroy your face if it's there. And I think Araujo will probably take some big lumps. I think, her side kicks, her kicks to the legs, I think those are going to be a problem. Araujo tends to be a little bit plodding with her footwork. Doesn't mean she's not dangerous, and she hits hard because she is a little bit flat-footed. However, as far as trying to keep up with someone like Silva, I don't love that for her. I think that Natalia Silva is a big favorite, probably because of that reason. I'm not sure I'm going to touch this one, but I do like Silva here. A little bit of value on Araujo, but I think Silva's footwork, her striking is going to be a little bit too much. I don't think Araujo is going to be that much of a threat. If she does take Silva down, I don't think it's enough to really threaten her with submissions, maybe. But I like Silva here as well.
At Anik Florian Pod, should Kenny Florian have to spend his $1,000 every week? Yes or no? Evan Longoria, please chime in as well. All right, next matchup in the welterweight division. Rude boy, Randy Brown, minus 238. Muslim Salikov is plus 195. Randy Brown's 33 years old now. That makes me feel like a fucking fossil. He's 11-5 in the UFC, getting ready for his 17th UFC appearance. Last one was a pretty good one. Unanimous decision, the win over Wellington Turman. While ago, though, 7 months ago in Jacksonville, And then on the other side, real quick, Bry, King of Kung Fu, Salikov, also coming off, a loss, to Nicholas Dalby last June, but strong UFC record, I should say, as well at 6-3. He will be 40 in June. Your thoughts here on Randy Brown taking on Muslim Salikov?
Yeah, so I'm glad they kept this fight together. This was supposed to happen. Randy Brown withdrew because of illness. And selfishly, I'm glad they kept it together because I'm all over Rude Boy here. I think he dominates. I really, truly do. Muslim Salikov is a guy who comes out aggressive. He wants to kill you. He wants to take your fucking head off, and then he slows down. And I think Randy Brown, who has been chinned before, has been knocked out before, needs to be careful. But I also think he needs a finish here. We haven't seen a finish from Randy Brown in a while, and we need a finish out of Randy Brown, I think. And Muslim Salikov's a guy you can finish late in the second, early in the third. Randy Brown does have good cardio. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a submission out of Randy Brown, possibly a TKO if he just wears him down with strikes. But I'm all over Rude Boy here. I'm glad they ran this one back. And minus 245 is a gorgeous number. I thought he'd be placed a little higher, but I'll take it. I'll take Randy Brown.
By the way, I just noticed Petrie's shirt. Select your fighter, which can be yours at jonanik.com. And that is Petrie's mug on that shirt. If you could hold it up
right
a little high. No, I like that Petrie single, Cody, all over it. Phenomenal producer, director, Cody Merrow. But there's Petrie's face on that one side. Nice.
Whenever I wear this, my kids go, Daddy, Daddy. I say, yeah, that's Dad.
Daddy fucking deal with it, honey.
Awesome.
Ken Flo, Randy Brown, minus 238, Muslim Salikov, plus 195. Any thoughts for us on this?
Yeah, listen, I think it's going to be a very difficult fight for Salikov. I think that when you have a guy like Randy Brown who is going to be long and more athletic and knows how to utilize that jab and those long-range strikes, it's a great way to nullify an unorthodox style, a guy with a different rhythm like a Salikov. So I think Randy's got to get off to a good start with that jab early, establish that range, and he's got to be on point with his takedown game. It's almost that simple. And I think if he's able to do that, I think he wins this fight. I think he's going to be a little bit too athletic, a little bit too long and lanky for Salikov. Even if Salikov's able to get him to the mat, I don't see Salikov as that Shazam style of submission game on the ground that could pose a problem for Brown. I don't think it really be like that. So I think Randy Brown's going to be able to win this fight, look good. I like him in this spot a lot. I think it's a great matchup for him.
Yeah.
All right, co-main event in the lightweight division. He is back. Money Moicano, 13th ranked Renato Moicano. And it's amazing how much more excited I think the fan base is now about this guy. He's minus 142, taking on 15th ranked Drew Dober, who is plus 120. So Moicano, Bry, was all the rage after he submitted Brad Riddell at UFC 281. That was all the way back in November of 2022. Huge fight now for Moicano in the co-main event this weekend. How do you think he handles the power and the striking game of Drew Dober?
I hope he's getting paid, man. Money Moicano. Listen, Ray talked about it, about Merab putting out funny content, which is the video Merab put out. It's hilarious. Moicano is very funny himself. He's got English down, but it's still a little broken, and it's very funny. He's funny on Twitter. He calls everyone out, which is hilarious. Well, he's got a big fight here, because Moicano got knocked out twice at 45, got put out, and then debuted against Fiziev, got knocked out as well. Got knocked around by Rafael dos Anjos, So there's a little bit of a chin issue. And Drew Dober, all this guy does is knock people out. His last 7 wins are from knockout. I mean, I know people are sleeping on Dober a little bit because he's up and down a little bit. I was a better plus money on Dober, but Vegas is smart. So we're not getting that. But I'm all over Drew Dober here. I think Drew Dober wins this fight. Moicano, Drew Dober gets taken down by elite people, but he plays guard and then he stuffs the head and cage walks. He doesn't hip out and jump up, exposes his back. He might do that when he's desperate. Moicano's got a great rear naked choke. I don't see Drew Dober exposing himself when he's on the ground too much. I don't think Moicano's wrestling is all that good. He sets up his wrestling very nice with the striking, but Drew Dober with that bulldozer of a head, he's got a refrigerator head, can take those shots. He can give shots, and I like him by knockout here. I like him stunning this crowd here. Again, I wanted a juicier number on Drew Dober, but I'm going Drew Dober. Plus 120 is fine by me, but I'm going underdog here.
Kenny, if a criminal had to be killed with one punch, I think I'd probably send Josh Emmett in there over Drew Dober, but I think Dober has a lot of similar qualities at lightweight. When you see some of the consequences on the other side of Emmett's power, it's like these guys are really concussed. And Drew Dober, I think, has that similar, one punch, really scary threat here. What are your thoughts on this co-main event as Moicano tries to make a real statement here against Drew? I think you're on mute, brother, but we love your fucking mustache.
I'm sorry. I got some landscapers over here. I can't keep it off for too long. So listen, I think that this is an interesting fight. I see it a little bit differently than Brian. I do know that Dober, no question about it, is very dangerous. He has the ability to put you out with one shot, especially with his hands. When he gets into a rhythm, he also is very clean with his Muay Thai as well when he's getting on with his combinations, as opposed to just looking for that one big shot. What worries me about Drew is sometimes he gets a little bit too reckless, and you can get reckless with some of the other guys that maybe you faced in the past. Let's say like a Ricky Glenn, right? I'm looking at his fights right now, a Bobby Green, a Rafael Alves, Terrence McKinney. But I don't know if you can get away with that against someone like Moicano, who is very dangerous as well. This is a guy that hits hard as well. I think he's got the better submission game as well. I think being the taller, longer guy can pose some problems for Dober, who really does his best work in tight. When he gets into that boxing range, when he's in close, that's when he can rip the body, go upstairs, land those big shots. But I think that Moicano sometimes has a tendency of getting reckless. So this is why it's very interesting. I've seen some improvements in the game of Moicano. I like the fact that I think he's a little bit more durable at 155 pounds than he is at 145 pounds. I think he's had some time in between fights now, and I like him in this matchup. I think it's going to be interesting. I think if he can keep Dober on the outside, land shots, and be patient, and be defensively sound, I think he wins this one. So I like the odds in his favor too. I think I definitely see some good value on Moicano.
Money Moicano has dealt with some injuries too. He was to face Arman Sarukian April 29th of 2023, but he was forced to withdraw. And he did say on our shoulder program, remember the show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anik on the Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel, that he learned to swear from playing Call of Duty. And man,
nice.
That guy knows his fucking way around an F-bomb. Does he not?
That's funny.
Does he not?
Nice.
By the way, all clips from this program can still be accessed on the old channel, Anik and Florian podcast. That includes our exclusive interview with the new middleweight champion, Dracus du Plessis. But we would love if you would join us over on the DraftKings YouTube channel as well. Subscribe and watch full-length episodes over there. It would really help the program. Anyway, poll results, main event matchup in middleweight, 11th ranked Nassourdine Imavov, minus 166. Number 8, Roman Dolidze, is plus 140, and 62.5% of you like the underdog Roman Dolidze. Huge year for the middleweight division, obviously, to begin things. Belt on the line earlier this month, and now another headliner in this division. Imavov's last win, Bri, came all the way back in 2022 against Joaquin Buckley. Lost a main event unanimous decision to Sean Strickland last January, a night on which he was supposed to face Kelvin Gastelum. Then, of course, the no contest against your guy, the king of combat, Chris Curtis, due to the accidental clash of heads. That was UFC 289 last June. Now he draws the hard-nosed Georgian Roman Dolidze. Who do you have in the main event?
So I love when a main event or any fight stumps me, right? I'm like, what side am I? This is it. This is 50-50 in my mind. I reached out to my guy, Chris Curtis, who I was talking to earlier this week. He trained with Dolidze, has trained with Dolidze, and fought Imavov. So I said, who we got here? He didn't give me a firm answer. He just says Imavov surprised me.
All right. I let it go the first time. I mean,
hang on.
It's not on Imavov.
The sniper Imavov.
Listen, I messed up the first time. If there was an edit button, we could edit it out. I kept going because I'm a professional.
You are.
All right. Listen, Nassourdine, I'm just going to go with that because fuck it, Jay. He's slick on the feet, and his takedowns are getting better. Him off his back is what worrying me. Dolidze is a big guy for 185. Probably should be at 205. We're being honest with this. And he's cocky down there. I still remember him looking in his cornerman, back-to-back fights going, you want me to take his leg? I'm going to take his leg. He falls for leg, doesn't get it. I mean, it's like, if you're going to be that cocky, finish the submission. But he's very good. What he did to Jack Hermanson on the ground was surprising. He's slick for a big guy. Covered in hair, and it's just a big gorilla, punches hard. The Marvin Tory fight, we all split hairs. Who won that fight? Who really didn't win the fight? But what it comes down to me is both these guys have struggled with cardio. I think Nassourdine is cleaner. I think Dolidze is more powerful, has more ways to win on the ground. but I don't see Dolidze going 5 rounds. I think he's going to try to get him out of there in 2 rounds. I think if he can't do that, he's in a world of hurt. Imavov has went 5 rounds before with the former champion in Strickland. Slowed down a little bit, but got a second win. Didn't get finished. Landed over 100 strikes himself. I'm going with Imavov, and I'm not looking back.
All right. And Cody, please remind me the next time Rafael Fiziev fights, I'd like to run that back on the pronunciation of the week. All these fucking Fiziev guys out there. Fiziev. Kenny, the Georgian Roman Dolidze. I like how this episode has come full circle talking about hairy men. He had won 4 straight before dropping a decision to Marvin Vettori at UFC 286 last March. Was going to fight Derek Brunson. Then he had a fight booked against Jared Cannonier, who tore his MCL. I like both these guys, man. I love this division right now. We will need a main event prediction, Ken Flo. Who do you have?
Yeah, I think that Brian did a good breakdown there. Dolidze can be very dangerous on the ground. There's no questions about it. He does have the ability to kind of submit you pretty quickly when he's on his game. I also think he's gained a lot of confidence in his striking, especially when he's moving forward. He's not the kind of slick style of like evade and counter similar to Imavov, but he is very powerful and he moves forward well. Gets his head out of that center line, lands some heavy shots, and that's where Imavov has to be careful. Imavov's volume can be a problem. When he waits for the perfect counter, that can be a problem. When he's getting taken down, that can be a problem. And when I'm looking at this, I just see it being a little bit, there's a little bit too many problems the way of Imavov. I do think it'd be an advantage, like Brian said, rounds 4 and 5. That's where Imavov, his durability, and maybe his conditioning, if he's being efficient, that's where he can maybe take over in the fight. Because Dolidze isn't the most efficient guy as far as managing his energy over the course of the fight. And of course, this being a 5-round main event in the UFC, that's a whole different ball of wax. So curious to see how both fighters really respond to that. But for me, I think I'm leaning towards Dolidze. I think if there's one guy who finishes the fight, within, I guess, maybe the first 15 minutes, it's probably Dolidze. And Imavov could finish the fight, but I wouldn't see that happening until later on in the fight, like late in the fight. So leaning towards Dolidze, man. I think the threat of him on the ground and him being, I think, the more powerful striker in some ways is what gives him the advantage in this fight.
Nicely done, my man. As always, it is now time for my favorite part of the show. Place your bets this week, brought to you by JonAnik.com, where you can use the promo code ONEMORESLEEP. One word, one more sleep, to get 20% off your order of Anik and Florian podcast merchandise at JonAnik.com. All right, time to place your bets. You each have $1,000. Brian Petrie plus $55.86 on the year. Kenny Florian minus $120.82. BP, $1,000. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm going to start right away with old Chuck Buffalo Rack. Yeah, plus 185. Give me $200 on the underdog there. I think that's a good spot for me. And then give me Randy Road Boy Brown minus 245 at $400. I like to go for whack there. And I'm going to jump in the prop pool. The prop pool's open from the emails. Yes. So let's go Dober by KO. Okay. That's going to be probably a small plus number, but I like plus numbers. So that's going to be $100. Okay. And then give me Imavov for $300, and that's my $1,000 right there.
Straight wager on Imavov at minus 166. And again, if you're wondering, right now as we tape, perhaps Dober by knockout is not available on DraftKings Sportsbook. But once you guys find that proposition, you screen grab it, send it to me and Cody, and we will lock in that price for you on Drew Dober by knockout. Ken Flo, $1,000. What are we doing this week, if anything?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do actually a 3-fight parlay here for my pick. So yeah, I'm not gonna take the risk of going $1,000 at this stage of the game. I don't want to get too far behind early in the year to Brian Petrie. So let's do $500. This is gonna be my parlay here. Okay. Let's go with Randy Brown.
Okay.
Let's go with Hizriev.
Yep.
And let's go with Moicano for a 3-fight parlay. Let's see what happens for 500.
Outstanding. I love it. Ken Flo just putting them on the table here on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
If you want more from Brian Petrie at Brian Petrie MMA, outstanding work as always, my man. Enjoy the rest of your day with your family, and we will talk to you next Monday.
Real quick, John, you had a rough week. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. Just know fans like me who've been there for 20 plus years, we love you. We appreciate you. And I'm glad that you sent that statement out. You know, we're all human here, but you're the man, brother.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that and all your support. Have a good week. All right, brother. Thank you. All right, Brian Petrie with us every week for the main event challenge. We got to get on out of here. Don't forget, remember the show with Bilal Muhammad and Jon Anik coming up live on Thursday on the Anik and Florian podcast channel. Perhaps Bilal will have a date by then. One More Sleep is your promo code at jonanik.com for show merchandise. KennyFlorianMartialArts.com, worth clicking on. Ken Flo's website, almost worth clicking on as much as Argus Integrated Defense and A&R Tactics on Instagram. But if you're going to do one of those things, I would go check out those particular businesses on Instagram. Thanks to our guests, Paul Felder, Ray Longo, Brian Petrie, and the maestro Cody Bone Marrow for putting it all together. For Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. Thank you all for watching, for listening. Tell your friends. We appreciate it. And from the bottom of my hat, I'd like to thank you all for the love and support. I'd like to take this time to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. No, I'm just thank you all, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. I've spent hours responding to the love and some of the opposite of love, and I'm going to continue to be a conduit for the fans. But thank you all. Thanks for supporting the Anik and Florian podcast. We'll talk to you next Monday. Until then, go fucking.
To the bread, he's cornbread. Cornbread! He's cornbread. Cornbread! Life is so precious, do the best that you can. Keep your hands on the bar, here's the open man. He's cornbread.